In a small kingdom by the sea, there lived a king and queen who ruled with kindness and wisdom. The palace was grand, with tall white towers, and its walls sparkled in the sunlight. The queen loved looking out from the palace windows, gazing over the endless blue ocean that stretched as far as the eye could see. The king was a strong and respected leader, always working to keep the kingdom safe and prosperous. He was loved by the people for his fairness and honesty. The queen, though equally admired, had a sadness in her heart. She had long wished for a child to call her own, someone to bring joy and laughter into their lives. She would spend hours standing by the window, watching the ships sail by, dreaming of a child. She imagined holding a baby in her arms, teaching them all the wonderful things she had learned in life. She would often sigh softly, her fingers resting on the cool glass, as if she could reach out and touch the distant waves. "Why can't we have a child, my love?" the queen asked one day, turning to her husband. The king smiled at her and placed his hand gently on hers. "We will, my dear. We will have a child one day. I promise you." But as the seasons changed, no child arrived. The queen's sadness grew, and her heart longed for a family of her own. The king did his best to comfort her, but even his strong presence couldn't take away the emptiness she felt. One morning, the queen took a walk along the beach. She loved the feeling of the soft sand beneath her feet and the sound of the waves gently crashing on the shore. The sun was rising in the sky, casting a golden glow across the water. It was peaceful, and for a while, the queen forgot about her worries. As she walked, something unusual caught her eye. A small boat was lying on the sand, half drifted by the tide. The boat looked old, and its wood was weathered from being in the sea for a long time. But what caught the queen's attention was the baby girl lying inside the boat. The baby was wrapped in a white blanket, her small face serene and peaceful. The queen's heart skipped a beat as she approached the boat. She looked around, but there was no sign of anyone else nearby. The child was alone, with no sign of how she had come to be there. With great care, the queen knelt down and gently lifted the baby from the boat. The child stirred, but did not wake. Her tiny hand grasped the queen's finger, and the queen felt a warm, almost magical connection in that simple touch. "Where did you come from, little one?" the queen whispered, her heart full of wonder. The baby opened her eyes slowly, gazing up at the queen with curiosity. A small smile appeared on the baby's face, as if she understood the queen's words. The queen smiled back, her heart swelling with love. "I will take care of you," the queen promised, as she cradled the baby close to her chest. The sea had brought this child to her, and the queen knew, deep in her heart, that she was meant to be a mother to this mysterious little girl. When the queen returned to the palace with the baby in her arms, the king was surprised, but filled with joy. His heart swelled with emotion as he saw the child, still asleep in the queen's arms. "Where did you find her?" the king asked, his voice full of wonder and awe. The queen smiled, her eyes shining. "On the beach. The sea sent her to us. She was alone, and I couldn't leave her there." The king took a step forward, his eyes soft as he looked at the baby. He gently touched her small hand, feeling her warmth. "Then she is meant to be ours," he said softly. "We will raise her as our own." They decided to name the baby Mira. It was a beautiful name, and it felt right for the little one. The name meant sea, and the king and queen believed it was a perfect match for the child who had come from the ocean. Mira grew up quickly, and soon she was running through the palace halls, laughing and playing. She was full of life and curiosity. The queen and king loved her dearly, and they taught her everything they knew. Mira learned kindness and respect for others, and she grew strong, both in body and spirit. The people of the kingdom adored her as well. They would often see her by the sea, collecting seashells or playing in the sand. Mira's presence seemed to make the ocean feel calmer, as if the waves were gently lapping at the shore just for her. As Mira grew older, she began to notice something strange. Whenever she was near the sea, it seemed to respond to her in ways that no one else could understand. When Mira was happy, the waves grew louder and stronger, as if they were dancing to her joy. And when she was sad, the sea would calm, as if it was comforting her. One afternoon, as Mira sat by the shore, watching the waves, she felt a strange warmth inside her. She reached out her hand toward the water, and to her surprise, the waves seemed to part gently, as if they were greeting her. Mira's heart raced, and a sense of peace washed over her. It was as if the sea recognized her. The people of the kingdom began to notice the changes too. The fishermen would talk about how the sea was always calm when Mira was nearby. "Whenever the princess walks along the shore, the sea becomes peaceful," they would say. "It's as if she has a special connection with the water." Mira didn't fully understand what was happening, but she could feel the sea's presence around her. It was a comforting feeling, and it made her feel both powerful and at peace. She knew that the ocean was somehow connected to her, and that connection was something special. One day, the king received news of a growing threat. A neighboring kingdom, ruled by a king who was greedy for more land, was preparing to invade. The people of Mira's kingdom were worried. They had always lived in peace, but now the fear of war was spreading. The king immediately began making plans. He called for his generals and soldiers to prepare for battle. The kingdom needed to be protected, and the king would do everything in his power to defend it. The queen was worried too, but she did her best to remain calm for Mira's sake. She spent time with her daughter, comforting her, and teaching her more about the ways of the kingdom. But Mira could sense the growing tension. She could see it in the faces of the people, hear it in their conversations. Something had to be done. Mira knew she couldn't just stand by and watch her home be destroyed. She felt a strong pull to the sea, and she believed it could help. The sea had always been her protector, and now she needed its power more than ever. As the days passed, the threat of war grew closer. The people of the kingdom were nervous, unsure of what would happen. They could feel the tension in the air, and it seemed to be hanging over the kingdom like a dark cloud. Mira, however, was determined not to let fear take hold. She spent more time by the shore, feeling the connection to the sea grow stronger every day. One afternoon, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, Mira walked along the beach, as she always did. The waves were calm, almost as if they were waiting for her. Mira loved walking here, especially when the sky was painted with shades of pink and orange. The sea felt peaceful, and for a brief moment, she could forget about the worries of the world. As she wandered further down the beach, Mira noticed something she hadn't seen before. There was a cave hidden behind a cluster of rocks. The entrance was small, barely noticeable, but the sea seemed to guide her toward it. Without thinking, she stepped forward and entered the cave. Inside, the air was cool and damp, and the walls were covered in ancient paintings. They depicted the ocean, its waves, and strange creatures that Mira had never seen before. Some of the images seemed to move, almost as if they were alive. But Mira didn't feel afraid. There was a calmness inside the cave, a sense of being safe and at home. At the center of the cave, Mira found something that took her breath away, an ancient stone glowing softly in the dim light. She stepped closer and reached out to touch it. The moment her fingers made contact, a warm energy surged through her body. The stone felt alive, as if it was responding to her touch. The markings on the stone were strange, but Mira felt drawn to them. She couldn't understand what they meant, but the symbols seemed familiar, almost as if they were speaking to her in a language she already knew. Could this be a sign? Mira whispered to herself, unsure of what the stone meant. But she knew that it was important. She didn't fully understand its power, but she felt that it was linked to her in some way. The sea had always been there for her, and now this stone seemed to be a part of that connection. That night, as Mira lay in bed, she had a strange dream. The images were vivid, like the dream was more real than anything she had ever experienced. In her dream, she was standing by the ocean, the waves gently lapping at her feet. The sea seemed to stretch forever, the sky above a deep shade of blue. Then, the sea spoke to her. It wasn't with words, but with feelings, strong and clear, like a message from the deepest part of the ocean. Mira could feel the warmth of the waves around her, a sense of belonging that filled her heart. "You are special, Mira," the sea seemed to say. "You are not just a child of the land, but a child of the sea. You have been chosen to protect both the land and the ocean. The power you feel is real, and it is yours to command." Mira's heart raced as she listened to the sea's words. But how? What am I supposed to do? The sea didn't answer directly. Instead, it surrounded her, its waves growing stronger, as if to show her the power it held. "You must stand strong when the time comes. Your courage will protect your kingdom. You are the guardian of the sea." When Mira woke up, she felt a deep sense of peace. The dream had been so real, so vivid. She knew now that the sea had chosen her for something important. She wasn't just a princess. She was a protector, a guardian of both the kingdom and the ocean that surrounded it. The next morning, the king received troubling news. The enemy army was on the move, and they were heading toward the kingdom. The people were afraid, and the king knew that a battle was unavoidable. He called his generals together to discuss the best way to defend the kingdom. The soldiers sharpened their swords, readying themselves for the fight ahead. The queen was worried too, but she knew she had to remain strong for Mira. She spent time with her daughter, preparing her for what might come. The fear in the kingdom was palpable, but Mira remained calm, as if she knew that there was something more at work than just the coming battle. She spent more time at the shore, feeling the pull of the ocean. Mira could feel the sea's energy flowing through her, and she knew that she couldn't face this threat alone. The sea had given her strength, and now it was time to use that strength to protect her home. One evening, Mira stood by the edge of the water, the waves crashing softly around her. She closed her eyes, focusing on the connection she felt with the ocean. She spoke aloud, her voice steady and clear. "I need your help. Please, protect my kingdom. I will always honor you." As if in response, the sea began to stir. The waves grew larger, rising and falling with a rhythm that seemed almost deliberate. Mira felt a rush of energy inside her, a power she had never felt before. The sea was responding to her call. Now, from this point, the story will be continued in the next part.